Hey scrappers, if you're looking to figure out what materials you should sell this week or hold this week, now is the time to do it. Our weekly report is going to give you that information, up-to-date market news, pricing. Let's get right into it and we'll talk about it inside. Hey scrappers, Tom here, and today is Wednesday, July 31st, 2024, and no, I am not in the regular office. I'm at a conference down in New Orleans, so here I am streaming pre-recorded, so hopefully everyone's doing well. Been doing iScrap for a while now, and I'm super excited that we've been able to just update our app. We have it coming out in the next week or so, and what we've done with it is we've really given you a lot more data. We've been able to take a lot of the ideas that you've had, a lot of the metals, a lot of the prices, been able to combine them to be able to create better price ideas, give you a better idea on where the markets are. So we're really excited to see how it comes out, see how you receive it. A lot of our changes have been off of your advice, so and your ideas and concepts. So thank you so much. So what's going on with the markets? I don't know. If you ask my overall opinion for the rest of this year, these markets are what you see is what you're going to get. You're not going to see any flashy ups and downs. You're not going to see huge increases. We have a presidential election in 3 months. We have unrest in the Middle East. We have inflation numbers that, while they're coming down, they're still hurting manufacturing overall. So I really don't see a lot of optimism when it comes to a lot of these things. When I look at some of the current scrap prices, copper, for instance, we're down 25% since that crazy run up in May. But if you even take that run up in May out, we're down about 10 to 15% from where we were in April. Now, we've seen a little bit of resurgence the last few days. We've started to see some of these prices jump up a little bit after having really big declines. And today we saw the market jump about 10 cents a pound on the trading side, which is always great. But copper prices right now, the EV push is dwindling. We're seeing EV sales dipping down. We're seeing the massive amount of copper that's going to be needed dipping down. And that's just a short-term view. I think long-term, we are still very bullish on copper, very optimistic on where the markets are going. Really a strong overarching for a while, right? So again, second week in a row, if you're going to save something, hold on to your Bear Bright. Save one item that you're going to be able to accrue a lot of. It's going to be the biggest bang for your buck. So when you do get those quick 30, 40, 50 cent increases in a couple of weeks, which do happen, that's when you can go and cash in. So if you're going to hold on to anything, I would hold on to copper prices, Bear Bright. Because copper prices right now, they're trading around $9,000 a ton, which is around $4 to $4.10 a pound. And with that big global stock sell-off that we saw, weak demand overseas, especially in China, we're just starting to see a lot of these markets go down. There's a quote from Carbon Credits. Although demand from traditional uses remains weak, copper is expected to see substantial growth from green energy sectors, including electric vehicles and renewable technologies. But that's a future thing that we're talking about. So today, I'm sitting here, I'm actually at a power conference, and I'm at a conference where they're talking about generating power, and they're worried that the power that they need to generate for future demand is not going to be there because renewables are actually going to put some of those demands at risk. And a lot of people here were talking about rolling blackouts happening in the future because the demand on energy is not going down. Interesting thing they talked about yesterday. The power that it takes to kind of charge and make your cell phone operate is equivalent to what a refrigerator used to take. Now, of course, your phone's not plugged in all the way, but think about that for a second. We all have these little fridges in our pockets consuming a massive amount of energy. You use it all day long, you recharge it, that sucks in energy, right? So the copper transition to EVs, the electrification, the renewable energies are really good. But what people are talking about here is the infrastructure and how they're going to power data centers, how they're going to drive AI demand. I was sitting next to a couple of gentlemen and they had heard about ChatGPT before. And I just showed them some of the tricks that my sister has actually showed me over the last 6 or 8 months on how to use it. And when I showed them some of the prompts that I put in, and then I just had it spit out this entire paragraph of information within a matter of seconds, these two men immediately understood how the amount of energy that's going to be needed is not going to be what's there, and we're going to come to a problem. And when that problem starts to happen, which will probably be in 2 to 3 years, when we start to have an outpacing of demand versus our supply, you're going to start to see copper prices really rolling, because you're going to be forced to inject a lot of transmission lines, a lot of data lines, a lot of copper feeds. They're not going to be going to aluminum. So long-term growth for copper is so incredibly strong. And it just was echoed when I was down here seeing the demand for energy, and demand for energy means demand for copper. So those two things are intertwined. That's a really positive thing. And that doesn't even mention overseas growth, China, India, Africa, South America, different parts of the world that have underutilized their expansions, and they want to be able to catch up to the rest of the world technology wise. And we're going to see that growth and that demand for copper coming. It just might not be for the balance of this year. Now, when I look at other things, BHP, the world's largest miner, they just acquired a 50% stake in another copper project. Even though that they see the copper prices are weak today, they're jumping on weaker copper prices and weaker demand to be able to get more supply for the future. And another, that was from Bloomberg, this from investing.com. The recent price correction in copper was accompanied by a decrease in speculative position. That suggests that the market is becoming less frothy, and that the price decline is more likely a reflection of cyclical in policy related headwinds rather than fundamental shift in the copper market, just showing what we already knew. Those copper prices that jumped up in May and June were short-lived. They weren't real. So we do have a steady demand. We do have a steady growth, and we're going to see that in the coming months and years. And that's a really great thing when it comes for copper, and really when it comes for scrap recycling. So again, you want to hold on to something, I would definitely hold on to Bear Bright right now. Other news, we're seeing different cable companies. Wire and cable companies in India face similar challenges, with increased costs of raw materials like copper and aluminum affecting their profitability. And that's from Reuters out of India. Why is that important? They saw those quick prices going up, hurting things short term. They're trying to get back to a level so they can buy, produce, and install copper in their country. That's another great thing for us to be able to see. And these are the positive moves that we need to go forward to see these copper markets flourish. And we've been talking about this online through our weekly report for years and years. We've been doing this weekly report longer than most people have been doing podcasts, dating back 10, 12 years at this point. So you really want to get crazy, go see me talking 10 years ago versus today. A lot of these things have come into fruition. A lot of things have changed. A year ago, I wasn't talking heavily about AI. Well, today I am, because I see what a huge growth it's going to be for the copper demand. And that's a great thing to be able to see. But you also have to look at the other metals that you're going to pull along with it. Aluminum, for instance. Aluminum is down 8.5% in the last month or so. We saw a steady increase for aluminum prices. April, May, June, nice strong prices on aluminum. What happened? Started to dip back down, and some of that was just on weakness of forecasting, weakness of manufacturing, and unfortunately, that just is where it is right now. And we're going to see the aluminum demand going up, but it's not going to be for a little while, because we're really waiting on a lot of these elections and this cycle to circle itself out. You can see in the last few days we have an 8% decrease in sheet aluminum prices. You can see some of the prices: 55, 40, 50, 52, 55. So you're looking at prices starting to dip down. Here we saw a topic from oilprice.net. Aluminum prices plummet despite green energy hype. This decline is largely attributed to China's economic slowdown and weak demand. Again, the Chinese involved in pricing. The oversupply situation has been exacerbated by China's record level of aluminum production and high levels of cheap imports from Russia. So here we are, right? We're trying to outlaw Russian aluminum. You have the Chinese buying it from Russia because they're the largest consumers of metal. You don't see that hurting Russia, because now they're still able to sell their oil, their aluminum, their coppers to China. China's now refining them, and where are they sending them? To the United States, cheapening the scrap product, cheapening the market, and that's where we get hurt. How are we going to fix it? It's really hard to fix overseas exports and imports, the only way you do it is really through strength. And that's where tariffs and things like that kick in, because if you start to have other countries flooding the United States with cheap metals, the price of scrap is going to obviously be pushed down because there's going to be an oversupply of metals in the industry. This is basic economics 101. You flood the market with cheap products, you're going to have cheaper products. People are going to lose money, and scrap prices in this instance are going to go down. And that's what's happened to the steel markets as well. I mean, we're seeing steel prices dropping down another $15 a ton, with more drops coming in August, from what I understand. I just got that news this morning. We're going to see that market weakening. We're seeing overseas tensions with Israel and Iran and that whole Middle East, juggernaut there. That's going to affect oil and gas prices. We don't know where prices are going to go from here. We look at some of the markets and we look at some of these top things like steel. We see our steel price at 148 on a shred. That's down, and that's going down more. We're going to see that price 148 dipping down to 140 by the end of August, once a lot of these prices start rolling in and markets start acclimating. So really, it's just going to be interesting to see what happens. I don't see a lot of good for the balance of 2024 pricing, but listen, I've been surprised before, and hey, I really hope I'm surprised again. Now, we've had some questions over the last week from some videos that we've shot, and I'd love to answer those. And again, if you're watching on any of our channels, YouTube, LinkedIn, any of those things, please ask me questions. I love seeing your questions. I love answering your questions. I love going over your questions. It gives me ideas on things that you want to be able to see and you're interested in. So we had a question. I cut certain types of brass in half, and if a magnet is still slightly attracted, are there such things as magnetic forms of brass? Now, the answer is no, there are not magnetic forms of brass, because brass generally is not made of iron. It's made of zinc and copper, right? But that being said, if there are traces of steel on the brass, they could stick to a magnet. If there are items inside that brass that could be iron and they were really close to a metal pipe, they could magnetize a little bit and have a slight draw, but they're not going to have a huge draw. It's like 304 stainless, right? 304 stainless is mostly made not of nickel, but of steel, right? I think it's like 78% iron that's inside stainless steel. So after a while, when stainless is close to another metal like iron, it will start to magnetize, even though it's still not going to corrode. So, hopefully that kind of helps you when it comes to brass prices and brass magnetism, if you will. Another question, besides its element being stamped on a titanium bar, what are other ways to tell you have titanium without an analyzer? Well, there's a spark test. You could do the spark test, and we've talked about this before. So the spark test, you're able to use a grinder, you put it on the metal, and then those sparks that are shooting off of it will give you some ideas. So titanium will be like a white spark, but there are other metals that could have that. So it gives you a direction of what the metal is, but it might not give you the exact one. So that analyzer really is going to be very key to knowing what it is if you don't have the stamp on it. Does anyone sell copper shot to their scrapyard? I understand why they're not interested in melted bars, as they have no clue what's in the center, but I can't fathom why they wouldn't accept shot. So shot would generally be copper clad, on top of lead or something like that. I buy it at my yard. They're just small pellets, so please have them in a plastic bin so they don't break all over the place. Some scrap yards don't buy ammunitions or anything to do with ammunitions. That could be because they bought brass shells in the past, and if they brought brass shells in the past, all of a sudden that brass it might have a live round. They go to sell it, and then from there, you kind of come into a bad point. So they might just outlaw buying those altogether. Could be a insurance risk as well. So these are some of the reasons that people may not buy those lead shots. So, hey, really great to see everyone down here in New Orleans for Power Trade Show. Excited to learn more about the industry and the future demand for copper and power and aluminum and just recharging renewables, just to see how things are going. So I can use that to better educate you on where scrap prices may go in the future. So today is Wednesday, July 31st, 2024. We appreciate you tuning in. My name is Tom Bouchel from Rockaway Recycling and the iScrap app. And until next week, I'll scrap you later. Thanks for
for watching our video. For $2.99 a month, by becoming a member, you can get access to early videos, member-only videos, merchandise discounts from our store, and priority comments that we answer before answering any other scrappers. Click the link below to learn more. Until next time, scrap you later.